Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Strategic Command, World War II, World at War. It is December of 1942, and we're just wrapping up our turn. We have consolidated our conquests in China as the Japanese, and driven into the hinterland of China, in the south advancing on Chengdu, or actually I guess that's the central, and in the north area we're advancing on Langkao. We also have some troops up far north, trying to kind of get an end around on Langkao and either flank it from the north or driving directly on the capital at Umarichi. But we're a little bit overextended. We need to get our headquarters up a bit. We'll have to do that next turn. And it is the monsoon season, so that is slowing things down. Additionally, as we advance into the interior of China, we are dealing with the poor road networks and infrastructure of China. Meanwhile, in the south, the British Indian forces are driving eastward from Kunming toward the Japanese-held city of Kuichao, as well as maybe perhaps driving a wedge between French Indochina and French occupied Indochina and China proper. They've got a lot of troops in here, but it's going to be difficult for them to supply them through that terrain, and we have a fair number of troops in the south to try and stop that. The bigger risk is probably near Burma, where the British also have a corps and an airborne unit driving from Mulman, perhaps in toward Bangkok, but we've got some quality garrison troops there that should at least delay them from being able to do anything there. And if anything gets too serious, we do have troops along the rail line in Malaya that we could probably send north, but we're trying to use them to finish off Singapore. Additionally, we've gotten the Dutch down to level 2 in the Dutch East Indies. We're trying to get that down to 0 so we can claim all of the Dutch East Indies for our own. And we have successfully taken the port at Port Moresby, where we have a Japanese force here in the capital of New Guinea. In addition to that, in North Africa, in the European campaign, we've just destroyed a British corps over in this general direction, and we've also just taken the city of Cairo, so Egypt should technically fall next turn. I don't know what that means for the British troops in Sudan or Palestine. I don't know if that means we can drive toward Jerusalem and Amman and maybe Baghdad and kind of get on the southern doorstep to the Soviet Union, or if that means, not that. But the bigger challenge now in North Africa is going to be figuring out how do we hold our position here while also addressing the fact that the Americans now have troops ashore at Algeria. Almost certainly will take Algiers next turn, and then this entire province will fall to them. They will then have a border which to advance into Italian Libya. We've tried to delay some of this, or potentially a successful Allied attack into Italy, because I've pulled the garrison out of Sardinia, and I've moved it to Rome since the last episode. We have two battleships and an aircraft carrier approaching the Mediterranean, but the American force is vastly superior to our own, so that's going to be a challenge. And then in addition to that, we also have a considerable garrison in France, although I'm not sure if it's enough to prevent the American landings in France. We do have quite a few troops near the beaches, though, so one would hope that those number of units, what do we have here? We've got 6, we've got 8 units in France, and another 2 in Holland and Denmark. Additionally, we can operate this garrison unit in Berlin. Where do we want to send them? Ideally, we send them to deal with partisans in the Eastern Front to free up additional troops. Kharkov needs some garrison troops here, so we're going to go ahead and operate these guys for 5 MPPs all the way to Kharkov to deal with the Russian partisans there. I think that kind of locks down all the partisan units here. Well, maybe not. They've got one here and one here. We could pull this guy back. Kind of opens up a gap between us, but I'm hoping the Soviets don't counterattack between these two units. So that blocks off that guy. We can fly our fighter aircraft down here. Alright, so that should deal with all of the garrison shortfalls in the south. 2 guys here in the north. Both these are occupied. Smolensk is occupied. This area is occupied. Alright, so all of the partisan units here in Russia should be addressed then. So shouldn't have to worry about any rising up of any partisan units there. Norway, we're good. France, I think we're good too. All right, so that's the situation here in December. We're about to cross into 1943. Again, we're not in the best of shape. We might lose this game, guys, but I've been having fun, and I'm not the best player at this. I don't know all the ins and outs of the system. So if we lose because of my own ineptitude, hey, it happens. But in the meantime, we'll continue trying to win a victory. We're having some success in the south and driving towards some oil fields. We just took the oil field somewhere, I thought. North of Krasnodar or whatever it was called, I think. And then we also are threatening the oil fields near Grozny and Baku, which we will hopefully advance to. And if we do take these, my hope is it really hurts the Soviet economy and prevents them from being able to continue pouring out all these reinforcements. We're also on the doorstep to Moscow. Literally, we're the hex adjacent to Moscow with a Soviet army there. If we take Moscow, their capital will move to Kubinezhev, to the east here, and I've had some people suggest, try and drive east with a force there to take that, since it'll be lightly defended. And then the other alternative capital is Perm. I think it only switches twice, and if both of those fall, the Soviet Union falls. If the Soviet Union falls, I am pretty confident that that this war will end in a favorable outcome. But we've been grinding toward Moscow for the better part of a year now, and let alone driving toward 2 additional capitals further out east. So it's going to be a challenge, to say the least, to do that before the Americans race into France and overwhelm us. At any point, we're going to end up having to pull troops out of Russia to deal with the Americans if they get ashore on the continent. So we'll see what happens there. Meanwhile, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the turn, and we'll see what happens. UK suffers from morale from the loss of Cairo. German national morale is boosted by the capture of Cairo. Italian morale as well. Soviet morale improves as the war on the Eastern Front continues. Okay. Egypt surrenders. Germany gets 34 MPPs from Egypt. Yes. Yes. Powerful groups in Turkey call on their country to join the Axis. Interesting. It would be useful to have Turkey invade the Soviets from the south. Meanwhile, we also sent some diplomats to Syria to try and convince the Syrians to join us, because that would put them in the rear of Jerusalem and Jordan. Okay. Now we'll have to see what massive operations the Allies have planned against us. I wonder if there's like a trigger where the Turkish will join the war, if you take Palestine or something like that. All right, so Algiers has fallen. That means that Algeria will fall at the end of the turn. Soviets are building new tanks here, putting them into position. I'm assuming those tanks were ordered before the last turn, and that the AI does have to deal with the historic, or not historic, but the delay that the player has to deal with in terms of how long it takes to build things. I'm assuming. I could be wrong. Maybe a bad assumption. Meanwhile, you can see the Soviets are pulling back some of their air units that we had adjacent to our troops, bringing some additional reinforcements in front of Stalingrad, railing some different troops in the Moscow area around to different locations. Our troops, I believe, have a penalty in terms of their effectiveness during the winter months in the Soviet Union, so that's something we have to keep our eyes on. There's submarines diving from attack. Unfortunately, that pulls them off the Soviet convoy lane. Meanwhile, Dutch cruisers arrive off the coast of Singapore. Whoa, we almost destroyed that American cruiser with our sub there. That's pretty sweet. We just lost that German battleship, though. And our carrier is getting directly attacked as well. And there it goes. Well, the German Navy lost a carrier and a battleship. The Italian Navy probably will lose this battleship. Maybe we'll knock out an American heavy cruiser if we can find it, and Algeria is going to fall. That's it for the Kriegsmarine, guys. We've got 1 submarine left in France that's crippled, so it's not looking good. Soviet air is counterattacking us here. There's some British air still in Africa. British artillery near Suez. I need these guys at better, full strength. The good thing is I did pull several garrisons into sort of central... Oh, shit. I did. The good news is I did pull some garrisons into central Libya, so I can at least drive them west to act as a bit of a speed bump. They're not going to be very effective, but again, they'll act as something along the lines of a speed bump against the Americans if they try and drive into Egypt. Meanwhile, the Soviets are kind of repositioning themselves in Finland. They had been on the verge of taking Helsinki, but they pulled back when we brought in some additional reinforcements. They just counterattacked some Finnish troops there, but at least the immediate crisis of the city of Helsinki is past, at least for this next turn or two. Okay. See, I don't get why these guys are cut off. They have no lane of supply. Why is the AI allowed to reinforce these guys? That just seems weird. Supply lines are important in this game, but then they also just get routinely ignored, which just is kind of frustrating at times. Meanwhile, as we move westward into the center of China, you can see we're dealing with different types of weather than we had to deal with previously. You know, we've actually got to deal with snow now. British continue to attack near Mulman. I'm curious if, like, the Indian elements or the colonial elements of the British Empire have different caps on the quality of their equipment. I know the German Axis units certainly seem to. Counterattack near Rizhiv, here in the north. Definitely feels like the Soviets are getting stronger. Granted, it is winter, so that's a thing. Finnish unit just got destroyed there. It's a very long turn, it feels like. Stop attacking me and just give up. 'Tis my request. Maybe we can destroy these guys since they are cut off. Presumably, they have no supply. Allies building some new units. Be great if the monsoons and the snowfall end so we can use our massive Chinese Air Force for the Japanese. Meanwhile, Soviet submarines continue to choke off our access to resources in Scandinavia. Man, Turkey entering the war now would be a godsend. Assuming they have some troops. We could just invade into the south of the Caucasus, otherwise they might be more of a liability than a benefit. Soviet tanks forming in the north. Good lord, what have they built? Like 3 tanks this turn? Alright, Algiers surrenders. And I think that does it for their attacks. FDR and Churchill meet in Casablanca and demand unconditional surrender. Good for you guys. Demand it all you want. Now, I'm hoping, this is a hope, I don't know how this game works, that the Americans don't launch an invasion of Italy until they've dealt with the other forces in I can't think of the words. The words in my head, they do not come until they deal with the other forces in North Africa. That's my hope as I'm knocking things off my desk here. Just caught a light bulb. All right, so Central China. These guys should finish off that guy here in Chengdu. Then take the city. I guess I'll move forward, attack this artillery. So we didn't destroy it, but we are driving here in the sort of central southern portion of China into the hinterland. Destroyed 1 unit, took the city of Chengdu, advancing down this road, which presumably will get us in the rear of Langkao. Meanwhile, it's still snowing here in the north. Oh, some of our units can act. Some of them can. Some of them can't, maybe? Which ones can and which one can't? Looks like just our ground units are, or some of them. There's the fighter unit that has snow that's preventing it from acting. And we can't bomb Yan'an because that city is encased in snow. Alright, so what do we want to do here? I guess we might as well just attack outright these anti-aircraft guns. Just trying to figure out I don't know what to do. Right, these guys need to reinforce. That's what they need to do. You're going to pause up there in the north. You're going to reinforce. Worry about your advance next turn. These guys in the rear, you're going to force. So you, when you're not force marching, you can advance further than when you're force marching? That makes not a lot of sense. Right, move up there. So we move the headquarters forward to that city to give better supply forward. Same for that headquarters unit. I think we'll clear Xi'an here, and then we're going to move these guys forward from Chengdao. Can't quite get there this turn, can they? I am going to try and get these guys to Xi'an. And then I also need to start getting some of these garrison units I just purchased ashore so we can kind of garrison the hinterland there. Meanwhile, I don't want to use my air units on this, but I just need to figure out, like, what's the best... These guys can do 5 damage. This core can only do 1. Alright. And they'll finish these guys off. Alright, so that anti-aircraft unit is done. Okay. Why can't these guys move? And I can't bomb them because of the rain. Let's see. Maybe we fighter sweep these guys? I don't really know how effective fighter sweeps are. Looks like it kind of worked. Alright. It says we're going to get attacked. I think the issue is I don't have fighters to sweep there. Shit. I shouldn't have done that. I moved these guys out of Chongqing mainly just to try and... Alright, we need to operate these guys forward. No, we can't get there. I don't want a rebellion to rise up here. I don't really want to attack these guys in the south either. So, just had to reposition some troops. Supply may be an issue because the unit in Chongqing just moved. I really would prefer to bomb these guys, but it doesn't look like we can. What happens if I do? Nothing? No activity whatsoever? Upgrade to what? Longer range and naval weaponry. That won't help me in China. Alright, so we started weakening these guys. Alright, let's keep weakening these guys. These are elite Chinese troops, level 2 experience. They were overstacked. Well, fuck. That didn't go all that well. That headquarters is going to move up. These guys, there's no risk of rebellion in Nanning, so they're going to move up as well. Alright, so we've got troops here, here. Only likely rebellion spots. The other rebellion spots are behind the lines. No one's in Harbin. That could be an issue. But anyway, so that does it, I think, for the Chinese theater. There are some units that we didn't really move. These guys don't have very good supply. I guess I'd rather... Is there a difference in supply if I move them south? There is. So we'll move them south. These guys are just... Oh, they can attack at a 1. Alright, so we can start to reduce the Chinese Communist Army here at Yan'an, the capital of Chinese Communist Forces. Oh, I still have one more dive bomber. I didn't even know that. And he does nothing. Well, good to know. Alright, so... That's that. Moving south, it looks like the rain is finally cleared over Batavia. So... Can we bomb these guys? Naval cruise. Well, this is... Naval tactical. Alright. I guess that's all we can do with this light carrier. Set cap mode. I don't know if we want to ground. We probably want to set it to auto. That's 0-0. If we change it to naval tactical, I'm guessing it doesn't get any better. No. Alright, we'll try and bomb these guys. Ooh, nice. Got a hit on them. Alright, so carriers are having some success here. We'll see if our ground troops can mop up rather than waste the rest of our carriers. And they can. So I think this is going to cause all of the Dutch East Indies to fall to us. So all of these islands over here. It should also give our economy a big boost, I think. Because it'll give us a boost in terms of our economy, given all the oil, I think. Alright, so we'll move these guys over here. See if we can't bomb these guys into submission. There you go. We just did some casualties there. Drove that Dutch cruiser back. Drove it back further. Is that all my carriers? Do they all fly? No. We still have these guys over here. Alright, so they're going to do this. Finish him off. So that Dutch cruiser's destroyed. Gives us a nice little national morale perk. And then more bombing over here. Hey, we found the enemy carrier. Too bad I can't attack it, because I've used all my forces now. Alright, can we bombard these guys directly and do some damage? I don't even know what they're... are these guys dug in at all? Entrenchment level 2, supply 1. Entrenchment level 2, supply 1. I really feel like bombardment should reduce entrenchment level. It just seems weird to me that it doesn't. Like, what's the point in doing that? Why would I bombard anyone if it doesn't reduce entrenchment level? My battleships really need a refit badly. Alright, so we're keeping his supplies at 0. Alright, let's do this. Let's attack with the naval landing troops first. Bring in the army units. Then move in the armor. So, we got his dug in or whatever level down to 2. Or got his, his strength down to 2. His entrenchment level is down to 0. So, hopefully it falls next turn. We'll continue to reinforce these guys up here. And I think that does it for Japan this turn. Long-range amphibious transport for these guys. We'll keep these guys in Legepsy. And we're going to send these transports out to maybe Rabaul to defend the position there. Waiting for this American counterattack, which should be coming. At least the Battle of Guadalcanal was around now. So I would expect it to come soon. We need to transport this headquarter unit too. I hate to spend so much money on amphibious transports, but we need them. Actually, the transport might have been the smarter route, because some of these islands are islands that we already hold. Like Saipan. I think we need some troops on Saipan. Presumably, maybe. I don't know, we need some troops on the Central Pacific bases. We've got some at Wake, but we could use some at, we'll leave him in the port, and then we'll see if we can get someone to, we've got people on Tarawa, we've got people on Kwajalein, maybe any Weetalk, and then we need some troops on Rabaul, and then maybe Finnish-Haven, however you pronounce that. We'll see. In any event, the big news this turn was that we took the Dutch East Indies, and that will reflect in the next turn. Meanwhile, these troops here badly need to move west, and apparently they can't force march it, so we're just going to have to slowly move across the desert. Over here, these guys, do they even have supply? They do have limited supply. Alright. Move this armor here. Alexandria is a national morale point, isn't it? There we go. All right. So, can we finish him off? We can. Now the question is, do we have anyone who can move in? No, I want my artillery to move there. Okay, so we took Alexandria. We've actually cut the Suez Canal. You can see they've got a new convoy route down here south in the port of Sudan. And now we've got to deal with this. We'll move these guys forward to El Alamein, I think. Meanwhile, I think are these guys all Italians? They are. I actually think we might be better off moving the Italian headquarters back into Libya. I don't know how long it's going to take the Americans to move this away. No, no, no. I wanted them to attack that battleship. Damn it. Well, the Italian Navy is no more. That's for sure. Alright, so that's the situation in North Africa. Not much has changed. Meanwhile, on the Russian front, snowstorms are going to prevent our Italian bombers from flying here this turn. We'll have our airborne attack the city. Okay. Nice. That's a nice little attack there from those guys. And alright, so we'll move the mech troops there. These guys will attack here. We'll take that strategic town. We've taken the oil near Makop. We've also taken Rostov. Our mechanized troops are driving toward Grozny and the oil wells there. So overall, the campaign down here is going okay, I think, at least in this southern part of the field. We're going to get a winter penalty too as well, I believe, soon. Okay. Alright. I'm tempted to move there just so we can attack their air unit directly, but that may be a bad idea. That was not the result I hoped for. The interesting thing is a lot of the Soviet troops in the south are not as well equipped or armed. So that's working into our favor. We'll upgrade that unit, which was pretty badly hit. Looks like we've got Stukas that can fly here in the north. Are these guys dug in? No, they're not. Why are we so ineffective? I know they're level 2 tanks, but so are we. What about the Moscow troops? They're dug in level 1. What do I want to do with my bombers? I'd like to destroy this enemy armor. Can't reach that far north. I think maybe it's because of the winter penalty. Can we upgrade this guy? Ground attack level 1. What are these guys? Are these dug in? Level 1. Guess I'd rather isolate and destroy this unit. So let's see if we can do that. Entrenchment's gone now. We'll leave that Stuka in the north because we might actually be able to Well, the goal is for them to not take any casualties, and that tank didn't. So that's a good result. Meanwhile, we successfully took this town. So I know the winter makes us less effective, but nonetheless, that town fell to us. These guys did have to attack. It'd be interesting if we could get in behind these guys and cut them off. Is there a town here? Sort of. But that would be putting our troops in pretty risky spots, too. Okay. Can't reach. This unit's totally going to get cut off next turn. The good news is we at least right now have a unit directly on its flank adjacent to it. And upgrade these guys back to max strength. These as well. Move these troops forward. Shift some of our units around. The Moscow troops I want to bomb just to make sure that they don't get any of their entrenchments back. So they're going to be level 1 pretty much no matter what at the start of every turn. But at least this way now they're still at level 1. Moving our Stukas forward closer to the front. This area needs some reinforcements. Trying to reinforce everybody. I wish I could upgrade these Italian troops. I don't want to move them forward to invite an enemy attack. I can't reinforce them. I can reinforce these troops at Smolensk. We'll do that. guys are level 3 entrenched. I really don't want to attack Soviet mechanized troops directly. But we were able to successfully attack them 3 times, lowering their entrenchments to 0. And then we'll pull these Italian troops out this way. Shortens up our front a little bit, gives us stronger units here if the Soviets do try and counterattack there. Meanwhile, what about these guys cut off? What's their supply level? Supply level 0, and you can attack and do no damage. I get that your supply level's kind of crappy, but that's disappointing. They're just super experienced cut-off troops. Alright. I'm worried if I move off this hex, then they'll form a new guerrilla band, which I can ill afford. Where do we want to move this armored unit to? Do we want to drive it into the heart of the Caucasus? Baku would be a major coup. Baku, a major coup. Haha. There. We've cut these guys off at Kerch. That makes me feel more comfortable. I'm going to prepare these guys. I want to see if I can drop these guys back behind Grozny. Meanwhile, I'm going to move this armor over this direction. And we've almost cut the Caucasus Peninsula through to the Caspian Sea. Almost. Alright, so I've got some of these units that I can reinforce, which are going to need it because there's the Russian winter penalties coming. Additionally, we still have 223. I really shouldn't have driven this mechanized unit up here. It's going to get itself into a world of hurt. But hey, if we can take this town, we would cut these units off and make them far easier to destroy. So it's kind of worth a shot. That would have been great to have paratroopers on hand for that attack. I just don't have enough manpower to do it. Meanwhile, let's move these mechs east. I'm going to see if I can take some of your guys' advice. I don't want to get too overextended and let these guys get cut off, but it might be worthwhile seeing if we can push into the rear a little bit. Okay. I'd rather not attack these guys if I don't have to. Alright. So we've got a couple of small gaps on our line, but it's nothing too astronomical, I don't think. The only troops you have to worry about are over here, so we'll move you closer. Your troops, we'll move you to... Do we want to move them down to Malenkamp? Or maybe we'll keep them at Rostov one more turn. Move these guys into this town here next turn. So this armor can divert south if it needs. Or if an opportunity presents itself in the south of Stalingrad, it'll go that direction. Meanwhile, this infantry will come up behind these mech troops and drive on Grozny. And hopefully we'll have some success there. These paratroopers, if they can, will land in the rear of Grozny, depending on how things develop. So the one thing is we kind of changed over this turn from talking about this being a war on attrition. The Soviets built like 7 more units this last turn, which is problematic for us. If we go into the detailed losses, or if we take a look at the losses so far, the Soviets have lost 89 units. The Germans have only lost 8. The British, is this? Or no, Chinese have lost 64. Good God. Soviet Union has lost 1 HQ, 6 garrisons, 39 corps, 20 mechanized... No, wait. 39 corps, 20 armies, 6 mechanized, 2 engineers, 1 paratrooper, 4 shock armies. Really? No, 4 partisans. 1 anti-air, 1 rocket artillery, 1 armored train, 1 light tank unit, 5 regular tank units, 1 heavy tank unit, 7 tactical bombers, 2 medium bombers, 1 strategic bomber. I think if we look at the actual graph this turn, we'll see that the Soviets probably didn't lose enough to exceed their income. No, but only barely. I think the question is just like what happens with... I wonder if they got a lot of those units because they had that event that fired to say their morale is improving as the war continues. I don't know if that's just like, hey, great patriotic war, we're all happy now, or what, but... I also don't even know if I have sufficient force here to take Moscow. I know I'm kind of flirting with the idea of driving on Kubanizhov, or however you pronounce that, but they just built like 3 new tank units in the Moscow area, and we're about to get hit with a winter penalty. So, you know, it is what it is. As far as our money is concerned, can we do anything? Like, can we research? We can research more advanced tanks by the look of it, which would probably be useful. Infantry weapons we can't. Logistics we probably want to invest in. I think we'll do a lot better if we have more supply. So I think, actually, we'll advance 1 there. Actually, we don't have enough to do 1 in tanks now. We only had enough to do... I guess we'll do 2 in logistics then. No, we won't do that. We'll do 1 in logistics. Let's take a look at politics here. Where are we at with Turkey? Turkey's only 15% Axis. Not very strongly Axis. Why does Italy have 185? We need to do something with Italy. Can't buy any more armies. Can't even build mechanized units. Can't really build much of anything. We can build a few garrisons. Some shitty garrisons that'll just get rolled over. We'll build 1 of those. Production. We've got an army coming in February as well. So that'll be helpful. We'll have an Italian army and a garrison we can put in Italy to help defend against the Americans, potentially. And I think... Where are the Italians with their infantry weapons? They haven't spent anything on infantry weapons. I thought I had invested in infantry weapons. It's coming back to bite me now. Germany's researching 900. I guess in that scenario, what do we have, 130 left? Italy has no diplomatic chits, so we can't do anything with that. Germany has 1. So we'll invest that in Argentina. We might be able to get Argentina to join the war on our side, and then Syria, and just kind of make the logistical life of the Allies a bit of a nightmare. Yeah. Because if Syria can help us finish off, and I don't know how many troops are really here. They should be French troops, like Vichy troops. But if Syria can help us take Jerusalem and Amin in the rear of the British and cause those to fall and give us kind of a clear shot through, I assume we would hurt the British economy. I don't really know how the game works in that sense. But we'll have to see. That's enough of me rambling, though. Situation, not so great. North Africa, and that was a mech unit that we crippled with our subs at sea, so that's at least a positive. But Algeria has fallen. Egypt has fallen to the Germans, but challenges remain. Move these guys forward. Yeah, so Egypt has fallen to the Germans. The Germans are on the doorstep to Russia, but Russia just got a lot stronger in the last turn. A bunch of new units. We didn't really destroy much this turn. Finland is hanging in there for now. Should probably reinforce this guy. Yeah, so Finland's hanging in. The Germans are on the doorstep to Moscow, but the Soviets are getting strong. The Americans have counterattacked and are driving into Algeria. The German Navy's been all but destroyed. We've got one weak U-boat unit left there, and then we've got one U-boat unit kind of up here in the north, low on supply, not in raider mode, shit. The Japanese are driving into the heartland of China, but are running into their own logistical challenges as they do that. The British are trying to invade in the south of China, but they haven't really gotten too far, and part of that's due to poor logistics. They don't have a very good ability to support troops that far forward. It doesn't look like they have any headquarters units down there either. Meanwhile, the Dutch East Indies just fell, so that should help the Japanese. And, yeah, so that's kind of the situation right now. We'll see how the Japanese are impacted if their economy shoots up by taking the Dutch East Indies, and then maybe we can, I don't think we can threaten Northern Australia. We don't have the ground troops for that. But, I don't know. Maybe we can send those ships to devastate the British economy in the west near the Indian Ocean, or send them north to kind of help stem the tide near Kunming because their air power can reach there, or fight the Americans in the islands of the Pacific as we see how things unfold there. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for tonight. I hope you're enjoying the series as always. And until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying, I hope we don't lose. And until next time, I'm out.